where did the ark settle? It's actually been believed for thousands of years that the ark settled on a mountain called Mount Judi, or Kudi, or Khudi, all the same location. Mount Judi is Noah's appartation, or place of descent, the location where the ark came to rest after the Great Flood, according to very early Christian and Islamic tradition. The Quranic tradition is similar to the Judeo-Christian legend. The identification of Mount Judi as the landing site of the ark persisted in Syriac and Armenian tradition throughout the late antiquity, but was abandoned for the tradition equating the biblical location with the highest mountain of the region, that is, Mount Ararat in Armenia. Jewish, Babylonian, Syriac, Islamic, and early Christian traditions identify Mount Judi, or Khudi, as a place near or northeast of the town of Gezerat Abin Aber, at the headquarters of the Tigris River, near the modern border with Syria and that of Iraq. A number of sources, including Islamic and Christian, speak of there being at least two settlements near the mountain, one being the ancient ruins of Themanion, located to the south of the mountain, and the other being the city of Nesbin, near the border with Syria, from where people had come to visit the ark. Themanion, meaning 8 in Arabic, is thought to have been founded by Noah and the survivors of the flood, who were thought to number around 80, and a tale that was thought to be the ruin of Themanion is located east of Syriaz, one of the places that is thought to be the tomb of Noah. The Syrians of the eastern part of the Tigris River had a legend of the ark resting on the Judi mountain in the land of Khard. This legend may in origin have been independent of the Genesis account of Noah's flood, rooted in the more general Near Eastern flood legends, but following Christianization of the Syrians from the 2nd century AD, it became associated with the mountains of Ararat where Noah landed according to Genesis. And from Syria also, this legend also spread to the Armenians. The Armenians did not traditionally associate Noah's landing site with Mount Ararat, known natively as Masses, but until the 11th century continued to associate Noah's Ark with Mount Judi. According to the book Mercer Dictionary of the Bible, it reads, "Since the ancient kingdom was much more extensive than the later subdivision, Ararat, early Jews and Christians sought the ark's landing place further to the southeast, where the mountains first rise from the plain of the river Tigris. The location of choice was an elevation now called in Turkish Kardu Daji, but known to the ancient Semitic peoples as Kardu. Hence, the Aramaic and Syriac translations of the Bible rendered Genesis chapter 8 verse 4 as the mountains of Kardu, and the Greek and Latin writers referred to the area as Gorduye. The Nestorian Christians built several monasteries on this peak, including one on the summit known as the Cloister of the Ark. The Muslims, who conquered the area in the 7th century, then erected a mosque on the site and referred to the area as Jabal, Mount Judi. Even in recent times, representatives of various faiths, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Sabians, and Yazidis, gathered there annually to commemorate Noah's first sacrifice after the flood had ended. And according to the book titled Genesis, it reads, "Since the ancient kingdom of Ararat/Urartu was much more extensive geographically than this isolated location in Armenia, modern attempts to find remnants of Noah's Ark here are misguided. The mountains of Ararat of Genesis chapter 8 verse 4 most likely refers to the foothills where the Mesopotamian plains in the north yield to the highlands near the sources of the Tigris and Euphrates River. A site of long tradition is Kardu, identified as the landing place in the Quran. According to the article Noah's Ark and Mount Judi, it reads, according to Armenian and Syrian Christians living east of the Tigris River, the landing place of Noah's Ark was Mount Judi, not Ararat Mountains on the Turkish-Armenian border, widely held to be the location. Mount Judi is part of the mountain range that forms the northern border of the Mesopotamian plain. Nestorian Christians built monasteries on Mount Judi, including one on its summit called the Chorister of the Ark. According to tradition, wood from the Ark was used to build a monastery in Sirias, on the modern Syrian border, where the so-called Tomb of Noah is located today. And according to the paper titled Locating the City of Themanion, it reads, although in the west, the biblical Mount Ararat came to be located with Mount Ararat after the 13th century journeys of William of Ruckbrook and Marco Polo. Mount Judi was the mountain associated with the Ark of the Great Flood in countless early accounts, including Babylonian, Assyrian, Jewish, early Christian, and Islamic sources. In addition to telling of the legendary Ark at this mountain's summit, many of these sources also mention a related site at its base, Themanion, said to have been the city founded by the flood survivors. Whatever the origins of this ancient city may have been, it is a real place. Numerous ancient geographies and histories mention Themanion. To the Romans, it was Themanius, and their 1st century geographer Strabo tells of its capture by the Armenians from the Syrians. The Assyrians knew it as Themanion. It was among the 7 cities that the Assyrian Emperor Sennacherib conquered when he invaded Mount Judi circa 697 BCE. However, the bishopric of Themanion went silent after 1265 CE, and its territory was abandoned by the city of Caesarea. By the 14th century, Themanion was only ruins. The geographer and historian Hamdallah Mustafi described Themanion, a village that lay at the foot of Mount Judi, and which Noah built after that he had escaped from the flood. Thus it was the first shrine that was raised on the earth's face after the deluge. It is now a ruin. Theophilus of Edessa recounts the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius' journey to Themanion in the 18th year of his reign, circa 628 CE. Heraclius returned and camped next to a certain village called Themanion, which is the place where the ark stopped during the flood in the time of Noah. He climbed the mountain called Al-Judi, examined the place of the ark, and surveyed the world to the 4 horizons. Then he headed for Amid. Taken together, this provides a specific guide. Themanion was located on the plain at the southern foot of Mount Judi, directly below the traditional ark site, on a stream, and roughly equidistant from Karez and Zacho, a day's walk from each. The local geography allows us to narrow the location further, that the survivors were said to have walked down the mountain slope and there built a city, suggests that Themanion was to be found near the terminus of the southern descent of the mountain. And according to the paper titled The Search for Noah's Ark, it reads, 2 major traditions exist for the location of the ark. The European tradition, accepted by most Western Christians today, placed the ark on Mount Ararat in eastern Turkey, along the Araxes River near the border of the former USSR country of Armenia. However, that particular mountain is called Mount Massis by the Armenians and Agiri Daj by the Turks. many Armenian historians discount modern Mount Ararat as being the traditional landing place of the ark. It has been the notion among many Christians that Noah's ark came to rest as the flood subsided upon the great peak known as Mount Ararat. This assumption is based on an erroneous reading of the 4th verse of chapter 8 of Genesis. That verse does not say that the ark landed upon Mount Ararat, but upon the mountains of Ararat. As Kurjan noted, the Bible does not address the exact location of the ark, stating only that the ark came to rest in the mountains of Ararat, Genesis chapter 8 verse 4. However, some Jewish commentators do address the point more specifically. Cyrilius points out a remarkable fact that the Chaldean or Targum version of the Bible, called that of Unclesius, reads Mount Kardu for Ararat, and another Targum called that of Jonthanius reads by misspelling Kardum mountains. About the same time that George Elmison was writing, William of Rubric wrote The Journey of William Rubric to the eastern parts of the world. He did not see the ark himself, but describes an Armenian tradition placing the ark atop Mount Massis near the Araxes River. He further relates the story of a monk who attempted to scale the mountain, but was unable to finish. An angel of the Lord brought him a piece of the ark and told him to attempt no more. His story of the monk is very similar to a story written by Faustus of Byzantium in the 4th century AD, 900 years prior, but who placed the incident further to the south in the Gordanian Mountains. This 13th century AD account appears to be the first reference to place the ark on the mountain that today is called Mount Ararat. All prior accounts placed the ark further south. By the end of the 13th century, it would seem that the tradition of Mount Massis being Mount Ararat had become firmly entrenched. All of the remaining authors cited by Montgomery follow this tradition. They include Jordanius 1329 through 1338 AD, Odoric of Pordenum circa 1330 AD, Francesco Pigalotti circa 1340 AD, Sir John Mandeville circa 1360 AD, Gonzalez de Calvillo 1412 AD, Adam O'Learius 1662 AD, Jens Zuns Strunis 1677 AD, Sir John Chardin 1684 AD. All of these authors are reporting traditions of the people living around Erdigag at the time. None claim to have seen the ark themselves. Various ancient sources also state that Noah's ark rested in Mount Judi and not Mount Ararat in Armenia. Sources such as the Samaritan Pentateuch, the Targums, the Book of Jubilees, Josephus, Julius Africanus, Eusebius, the Peshitta, and Apothanius. All of these sources and more place Noah's ark, the resting of it, in Mount Judi, near Syria and Iraq, and not Mount Ararat in Armenia. And again, this is according to Jewish Babylonian, Syriac, early Christians and Muslims, even the Armenians themselves, before the 13th century AD, said that Mount Judi was the location of the resting of Noah's Ark. Remember, the Armenian legend of Noah's Ark only goes back to the 13th century AD, when Armenians converted to Christianity. But prior to Christianity, Mount Massis was sacred to the Armenians for pagan reasons. Keep in mind, it was only changed until after Christianity that they changed it from a pagan mountain to the resting of Noah's Ark. And then this legend was brought to Europe by crusaders who went into Armenia and brought the tradition with them to the West. and then it became popularized. Therefore, Mount Ararat being in Armenia today is really a late Christian belief, or a medieval Christian belief, and it's not an old Christian belief, because early Christians, as well as Jewish people and Muslims, all believed that Mount Judi was the location of where Noah's Ark rested, which is near Syria and Iraq today. And I choose to go with the older sources that say Noah's Ark rested in Mount Judi rather than late medieval Christian beliefs. I go with the early Christian beliefs, the Babylonian Jewish beliefs, the Syriac beliefs, and the Islamic belief for the resting of Noah's Ark in Mount Judi. And with that being said, have a blessed day and shalom.